Hey guys, welcome to Tuesday night stream. And tonight, or today, we packaged up the project to find out how many errors we had. And basically, what I was going to do was I was going to fix up a couple of errors and then leave a couple to go through with you guys. Unfortunately, I did a rather too good a job. But we are going to go through the packaging process and I'm going to show you a few little things you've got to do. Mostly it's pretty straightforward. This isn't a complicated project. And then we'll take a look at the files that it outputs. We'll talk about Steam and an extra little file you got to add in for Steam, and then we'll check the size. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at the packaging process, shall we? So first of all, we go to File and we go to Package Project and we select Windows. But we're not going to do that quite yet, because what we want to do is look at our project settings to look at what we need to put in regarding our packaging. Okay, so the only thing that we actually need to change here in this project, and we're not doing any localizations yet, that's something for a future possible project or a future update. I have done this before. The only thing that we really need to do is you will find a list of maps to include in the package project. Now, if you don't add these, then it'll add no levels to your project. So basically, I have just added the main menu, the gateway, and level 1. Okay, so you don't need to include incomplete levels. You can just include whatever it is that you're happy with at this point. Now, there's lots of things you can do that you can set up for it to check or not check, or cook or not cook, all that stuff. You can read into that yourselves. There's lots of stuff that you can do. Probably at the end, we're going to do blueprint nativization, right? But we're going to leave it for now, and we're going to say includes prerequisites installer, and that will be us. Okay, now with that in mind, once you've added all of this stuff, you can close it down, your project settings, and we can go and package the project. Okay, now the other thing that I would normally do in this case would be to clear the log. Okay, and that gives us a fresh look, a fresh log, and we can basically check in here to see if we have any of the issues that are put in here are going to be issues related to our build. Okay, so with that in mind, we can go down and package the project for Windows. Okay, now the first thing it does is it asks you for a directory where to put the build. I have put it in D drive in backups, and I created a folder called Chronicles. Okay, so it's going to use this folder and it's going to put it in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this folder, and it will basically start building, and it will say packaging project Windows 64. Now, the interesting thing is, the first time you do this, it's going to redo all your shaders, right? So this might take a while the first time it does it, right? But you will notice when this runs through, and you get a little, like a little squeak when it starts, and you get a little squeak when it ends. Okay? So, there is going to be a couple of messages here, which I'm going to explain to you. And then I'm going to describe the errors I had and how I fixed them. And this comes from working with my previous game on Steam when I was packaging it up. I basically learned pretty quickly what are game breakers as far as packaging goes and what are not, right? Now, the thing here is that yellow are not game breakers. They are basically just warnings. And these are files that actually are not used in the game. So, we can basically forget them, right? So, we can look at them and we can say Chronicles Contents, Blueprints, Bookshelf 2, right? It failed to load enum quantity. And that's because enum quantity no longer exists, but we're not using Bookshelf 2, right? And because we're not using Bookshelf 2, it's only a message. It won't actually be included in the package anyway, right? Now, you get a little squeak and it says package complete. And if we go down to the bottom, we can see that it says stage command completed, package started, package completed, blah blah blah, build successful, right? Which means that basically we have a packaged game. Okay, now earlier on, and I'll explain this well once again, we look at those yellow messages and I'll tell you what to expect. We only have the right. This is a better example, right? Now, you'll notice that it actually refers to the same thing all of the time, right? So one set of messages might appear to be lots and lots of errors, right? But it's actually not, right? Now, if these were actual errors in the game that we needed to actually do something about, then these would appear red and the package would fail to build. Okay, so we'd get a message at the bottom that basically would say build unsuccessful. Then you'd get a message coming up here that it's been unsuccessful, and basically to either dismiss or look at the output log. Okay, so let me go back to explain this a bit with our messages. Hopefully, must have been down a bit. Right. So the error I actually got related to this BP picture level select. Okay, so all you need to do is check in here to see what actual blueprint or asset has a problem. Okay, and in this case it was BP picture level select, and it was in red and it was errored multiple times, but all I actually had to do was basically refresh this blueprint, right? And that I knew that because what it did was it came up with struct unknown. At the end here, when it's where this says cannot find file, in red it said struct unknown. Now this is what happens when you basically update a struct. Now it doesn't happen all the time, I know that, but if you have that problem where it says struct unknown, go to the asset that uses that struct, right? Then all you need to do is say refresh all nodes, then compile, then save all, and then rebuild. Okay? Now, you can do this one at a time if you want, right? So you could do this one at a time. You could fix one of the problems every time, right? Now remember, if it does lots of shaders, it only does it once, right? So the next time you run it, it'll probably either pass or fail pretty quickly, especially if it fails, right? And then you can fix, as I said, each individual problem one at a time, or you can take a set of them and fix them, right? But just bear in mind and try to remember this. This is what the most biggest amount of problems I've ever had, and once I knew how to fix it, it is really straightforward. Or if it says, comes up here and says struct unknown, go to the blueprint, refresh the nodes, compile, save all, then repackage. Okay, so what did we get out of that? Well, if we'll now look in that file, we have something called Windows No Editor, right? And this is basically your root folder, right? So normally what I do is I rename it, and in this case we'll rename it to Chronicles of a Vampire Hunter. And the interesting thing is, if we right click on that and go to properties, we can see the size. So I'm going to count to 5. You can have a guess at what the size of this project is. 1. Type it in the chat. How big is this project once it has been built? I'll give you a second or two. Let me see it in the chat. How big is the project? Okay, nobody's typing in the chat. Fine. Okay, it's 810 megabytes. So it's about 3/4 of a gig. Right? Now, if you're putting it on Steam, you don't actually upload this file. Right? What you do is basically you zip it. Right? So I use Express Zip. Does the job for me. I say compress it to zip, and it'll go and do its thing. It will say, oh, this is bigger than half a meg or something like that, because it's quite old, and you just continue that. It'll create the zip file, and then it'll basically go through and zip it all up for you. And it's the zip file that you actually upload to Steam. Okay? Now, there is one more thing that you need to do for Steam, since we're now compatible with Steam. And with your guys' help, we might even be able to get a key for this game to put it on Steam. But we now have our package, and if we now look at the properties of that, it is down to 678 meg, right? So this is a packaged game. Okay, now there's one more thing. What you do is, when you get your Steam app ID, you basically create a file that is one line, and that is just the number of that you're given by Steam. And basically what you do is you put it in binaries, I believe. No, it's not. I can't remember at this point. It might not even be in binaries. It might be in here. Yeah, it's this one here. Basically, you put it in here. alongside these two things, right? So you put your app ID in here, then you zip it up, and basically that is it. You are ready to upload it to Steam. Okay? So in theory, if I got a key from Steam, I could upload this right now. Okay? By just deleting that zip, adding the app ID, and that would be it, done. Okay? And that is basically it. Okay, so our final size was 678 meg. Now I'm not particularly surprised by that, because we aren't using a heck of a lot of assets at this point. We're using a lot of procedural generation, like the minimap, etc., is basically, you know, it's generated in game, so that's not really taking any assets. You know, basically that's it, right? But that is basically packaging. Okay, and getting it ready to upload to Steam. Right, and basically you'll just be dragging and dropping that zip file onto a Steam page, right? Now there is one caveat to that, and it's if your your actual build size is bigger than 2 gigabytes, then you need to use a slightly different method, right? But we'll try and keep ours down as much as we can, while still being able to deliver decent graphics and stuff. And yeah, any questions on that, guys? That is how you package up in Steam, or sorry, package up and you're ready for Steam. Now this package is going to be available soon to my Patreon supporters, so they can get an early look at the game. If you want to do that and get your name in the game, then check out the description for Patreon and you'll be able to play an early version of the game as well. Okay, so now we are going to move on, and we are going to save that for now. And I had an idea of what I was going to do. Right? Now, here's the thing. Right? We could actually have a look at this output log again, and we could try and actually get rid of these errors. Right? Because they're all related to Bookshelf 2. Okay? So we could actually fix that. Do you reckon we should, or do you reckon we carry on? My next idea is basically for a pause menu. Right now, it's not going to be a particularly in-depth pause menu, because it actually doesn't have to be, because you're not going to be saving the game, even though we might do that. Right? It's not really that type of game, is it? But either way, we need a pause menu, right? But Bookshelf 2, we can probably sort it, because this enumber is actually no longer enum quantity, it's actually enum frequency, right? So for some reason this book 2 is not updated, right? So let's just fix the damn thing, right? And that's because we've got frequency here, right? And frequency is not that. It's E frequency. Okay. And really, what we have to do is delete that, then redo the switch, right? And you'll notice that that's all been updated now, right? And the last thing we need to do is basically copy the code from bookshelf 1, and it is basically going to fix all of our problems, right? Because bookshelf 1 and bookshelf 2 use basically the same code to do this stuff, so we want to fill these in the same, right? So in here we're going to say 30, and this was, I believe, 20. Let's have a quick look again. 20, 50, 7500. So we basically say 50, then 75, and then finally we change this to 100, and then we basically plug these in. If I can manage to plug them in. The rest of this code stays the same. This false goes to here, right? Everything else pretty much stays the same, but this little part of the code changes here. So we shall do that. Then we shall go to that little bit of the code, and this is the part that we need to change. So we basically delete those, we paste in that goes in there, and that is us done. Okay, so what we can do now is we can go to our Chronicles, we can delete that file, we can delete that file. Okay, so this might actually get, it's not going to get that much bigger, I can tell you that, right? But we'll do save all, then we shall, remember, we want to clear that log, and now we shouldn't have any yellow, right? So we will be totally in the clear. We select our Chronicles and we rebuild. Okay. And as you can see, we have no yellow. We still have no yellow. Everything looking good. It's going to have to do a little bit of cooking here because that is a new, well actually it's not in the game, so it shouldn't really need to do that, right? But you'll see here that it's going to take under a minute to do it anyway. Right? And I think we are probably nearly done. And that's looking like it finishing up. And there we go. Complete. Right. Well, it normally just does this, and it's like a waiting game, and it just suddenly does it. And there we go. We are nearly done. Come on, there we go. It's done. Right. So we had absolutely 0 errors, 0 warnings, no yellow, no red. We are absolutely good. Okay, so that is it. No problems at all. Right. We can look in here again, and if we remember right, it was what, can't remember the size, 810. Yeah, it's 810, still 810, and that's because although we fixed the error, the error wasn't in the game anyway, because we didn't actually have that particular object in the game. PP shelf 2 never appeared. But we could put it in now because we've actually fixed all the problems with it, or any problems there were, right? And we could actually do the same with bookshelf basic, which is basically the same, and you'll notice that it has got exactly the same problem, right? So we could actually fix this one as well. Okay, so we can basically go to this frequency and change it to actually be frequency. Okay, and you'll notice that that says bad enum, and that's because we've still got the wrong reference. So if we just refresh this and bring it in, drag this up, plug these in, and this is going to give us a choice of 3 different bookcases now for whenever we want to use them. And we know that this is 20, we know that this is 50, we know that this is 75, and we know that this is 100, and then we know that this little bit of code here needs to be replaced by this bit of code here. And that gets the job done. So now that's it. We've done everything that we need to do. Okay, so we'll hit save all. And there was something I was going to work on, but I've completely forgotten what it was. Right? From earlier, now we have close buttons and all the rest of it in all of our, you know, options has got close, etc, etc. Now we do need to bring this into line, so I think we'll do that. This is basically, we're doing a tidy up job at the moment because most of our menu is now working. Okay, So basically, in our options, we're going to go to it's not that one, it's this one. We're going to go to this button here, or at least this scale box, and do that. Okay. And that brings it in line with the other. Well, it doesn't really. I'm guessing this button has a bit of whatchamacallit. We'll check that other button and see what it's got, right? We'll see if it's got some kind of padding on it or something. And it's not, yeah, it has got a scale box. And it's also only, it's got a fill on it. It's got a spacer at front and back. Right, 35, 35 and basically 35. I believe. Yeah. So what we should really do is exactly the same thing. Now that's got a spacer on the top, and this is actually a horizontal box, right? You'll notice that in here this is actually a horizontal box, right? So we need to wrap this with a horizontal box, and then what we'll do is we shall add a spacer which is under primitives, and it's actually going to be there. Right, and it's going to be fill and 35. Then our scale box is going to be fill and 35. And then we're going to duplicate that, and then we're going to drag our scale box in between, and then this scale box is going to be 35, but our horizontal box is going to be that, right? Then that gives us the same size. Okay, so that brings it into line with the display, I believe. So what we'll do is we'll drag this, we'll do this, and we'll check each one, right? So our apply is the same size now for that as that. We don't have any applies for that, and I don't believe we've got any applies for that because these are automatically done at the time. So we don't need to do any more applies. So we now have the button in the right place. Okay, so we have the same size, so that's good. Everything else is working. We haven't done anything with gameplay yet, so we're going to do, like, if you want to invert left and right on the mouse, as well as like spin rate speed, right? Because I think the spin rate of the mouse is far too fast, right? But we can now close out of that and go back into here. And if you weren't here earlier, we added a high score table, right? Now, it's not complete yet, right? But generally, it is there for us to use along with this close button, right? And obviously, we have our credits. We can close that, and we've obviously got our exit game. And now, I'm thinking that we're going to have to get this like entrance door, and that'll take you back to the main menu. You with me on that? And it looks to me like what we need to do is we need to go to that map and rebuild the lighting on it. So we're going to go to maps, we're going to minimize this down, we're going to go to gateway, save all that, we're going to hit P, and it's not going to allow me to build the lighting on that. Why are you not letting me build the lighting, and why are you saying preview? Right, I'm guessing that's because we're in the editor, not the game, but we did see the preview thing in the game. Now, that's something to do with the lighting, right? Whether you allow it to use static lighting or not. Now, I'm not going to hit that button. But the interesting thing here is if... Right, I'm going to show you the interesting thing. Right, if we actually delete the directional lights, the preview goes away. Okay? Which means that those must be using some sort of static lighting, or I've not got a light mass. Yeah, there's a light mass importance volume there. I haven't got a post-processing volume though. So let's add that while we're at it. Right. So we've got, yeah, I have. We've got our post-processing volume, skylight, everything else. So that's all good and fine. And what I want to do now is I want to get this, and I want to browse to it. Can I browse to it? Yes, I can. We're in our modular Victorian mansion now. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create the blueprint here just for now. So we're going to create an actor, and it's going to be BP underscore entrance. Oh yeah, the other thing, so when we're going to do our gameplay, we're going to do invert the Y, sorry, the X, invert X, right? We're going to disable and enable head bob. We're going to do the speed of the spin of your character, right? So that when you're actually playing it, you can't it basically slows it down a bit, right? The speed of your mouse. Now this needs to come out a bit. That's on 450. And that's on 448. Right, and that's because that needs to also be in 448. It's too close. I'm just going to fix these little niggly issues while we're there. Or sorry, while we're here. That brings it out of the wall a bit, because this was doing a bit of strange texture stuff, because they were basically the same. The back and the front textures were basically overlapping, so it was giving a weird effect, right? But back to our thing here. This door is basically going to be the same as a picture select, right? But it's not going to take you to a level. What it's going to do is just take you straight back to the main menu. So it's not going to do any of this, right? All it's going to do is do this part here, right? Except this isn't going to be level name, this is going to be main menu, okay? And it's going to be interactive, okay? So this is going to be parented to an interactive item. So if we go and open it now, we basically add a static mesh, and the static mesh is going to be this, okay? Except it's going to actually be that. No, it's not. Was it that? Yeah, it must be, but it's the wrong way around. Yeah. Right, okay, whatever. Right, we'll set it back to 0. So we shall basically save that. Then we shall go into our event graph, and we're going to delete everything. We're going to save that. Then we're going to remember we need it to be interactable. So we're going to reparent it to interact item. Okay. And finally, we're going to paste in our stuff, and we're going to see what this is going to do, which in this case it ain't going to do that, right? It's just going to show W interact, and it's going to say main menu, and then that is going to go into there. Okay, and then this is just going to say main menu. We'll save that. And this has got a box, so we're going to have to add a box, I suppose. We're going to have to add a box collision, which is there. If we go to the viewport, we can now move our box . Right, we can do that. we can move it to the center. That looks centery to me. Then we'll bring it down, let's say 16. That's the wrong one. We'll call that 16. That's more like it. Right, and we shall size this up to be, let's say, 64 to start with. Not quite big enough, so we shall make it 84. Yeah, and that should do it. And we'll basically say 64 here, and that's going to be well big enough. And now our event graph likes it. Right, so now what we can do is we can press play while we're in here, and that's not working. Okay, so yeah, I've got to actually add it to the game, haven't I? That was a bit silly. Right, that's going to be 0. Then we're going to be turning that. Then we're going to be dragging it up here. Then to here. And then to here. And save content. Do save all. Press play. And let's check it out, shall we? Main menu. Hit the button. Job's a good one. Okay. Hit play game again. We're back in here. And what we'll actually do here is we'll not call it main. We'll just say exit, right? We shall just say exit. And that is another little part of the game that we've now fixed so that you can actually go back to the main game. And basically you are ready to go. And on that, guys, check out the description. Or first of all, I'm about to have a little 2-minute break, so hit the like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and check out the description for links to my Discord and ways to support the channel and get your name in the game, etc. Or you can check out my previous game on Steam, which is a tower defense game. So I shall be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. Okay guys, we're back and we are literally 6 subscribers away from 500, so if you would be ever so kind, hit the like and subscribe button. And the next thing we're going to do, now that we've solved the issue of how to get out of here, we don't need, well, I suppose we probably need the exit game menu here as well, but it gives us a way to get back to the main menu easily enough at this point. So what we'll do is we'll go to our HUD, and I was just checking if there's any messages. It's strange, I've had quite a few people pop in but nobody in chat. Right, so we have widgets in game and we're going to create another widget, and that's going to be called widget underscore pause, I suppose. Pause menu. That'll do. And all we're really going to do with that, right, is basically take our main menu, open it up, right, then we're basically going to take this vertical box, we're going to copy it, we're then going to go to our in-game and go to our pause menu, and remind me guys to fix that. And what we're going to do is wrap that with another canvas panel so that we can bring it down in size, and then we're going to select this and paste, right, and then this is basically going to be in the center, zeroed, and 0.5 size to content. Okay, now we're obviously going to have different buttons here, but fundamentally that's the way it's going to work. Now we probably, when I'm thinking about it here, is we want this, okay, so not that, we want the pause menu, which is right, and we just want this in the canvas panel, so that's just going to be paste. In fact, it ain't going to be in that canvas panel, it's going to be in this one, right? And then we can just basically move it to where we want. Right? And then for this vertical box, or at least this canvas panel, we can then just move this down a bit. Okay, and what we're going to do is probably wrap this with a border, right? Then we're going to click on a border and we're going to tint it to black. Right? And we can basically leave it at that. Right? So this one, we're going to be continue. This box, we'll set it to I suppose main menu. And high scores, probably it's going to be exit game. I'm going to leave those other two in at the moment. Right, but really, we might have like a save game, I suppose, if we actually want to save the game. We could have save game. Right, we're not going to have load game at this point. Now, save game would mean that we need to update the main menu with the continue button again. Right, and leave it at that. But let's say, okay, let's say we're in here. This is going to work exactly the same. Right, so we need our controller. So that's going to be pretty easy to do, because all we need to do is do that, then open it. Right, and then we can temporarily duplicate that, and that's actually on one. Right, so that's stunning monsters, so we can actually delete that, right? Then we can delete that, and what we can do is we can say dilation, set global time dilation to 0, which means that the game will basically stop, right? Then we can create widget, and that's going to be pause menu. Right, and then we're just going to say add to viewport. So we can test this out, and there we go. Okay, and we're going to have to say show cursor. Okay, so set show cursor, that's going to be ticked, and the target is going to be self. It doesn't like that. What's that expecting? Player controller. Right. And that isn't going to work. Hey Marcus Games, how you doing, bud? Yeah. Player controller. Right. So now when we hit 1, these aren't going to do anything because I haven't set them up yet. Right. Now, what I'm going to do here is test the global time dilation, and the easiest way to do that is by going to our pause menu, then going to our border and setting it to transparent. Right, compiling it, running it again, and if we run up the stairs, you'll notice that the clock is moving. I'm going to move to the side a bit, right, and then I'm going to hit 1, and you'll notice that our clock has stopped. Right. So that is working fine. We can stop that. Now we are going to have to stop player movement on this. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the code here. And that actually hasn't done anything. So you can get a reference to self. And movement. Right, okay. So basically what we should do here is in our pawn, we probably need a variable, and it's going to be can move, right, and its default was going to be true. Okay, and before we do anything with this menu, what we really want to do as I muck it all up, right, we're not going to do that. I'll move that down out of the way a bit. We're going to say can move, and we're going to set that to false. Okay. And while we are in our pawn here, we can go to our event graph for movement, and basically we can do this. Everywhere that we move, I can just set it to check if we can move or not, right? And in the meantime, I'm going to move these into a bit more space. When these have copied and pasted to a new event graph, it's kind of mucked them up a bit, really. And the HMD ain't doing squat. Now, there's no reason why we couldn't do this in VR. It might be something if we get more funding or whatever, that we work on that, but for the moment we basically say it can move. We get it. And we say branch and we pop it in there. And we need a bit of space. And now we duplicate it, if it's going to let us duplicate it. We do the same thing here. And we need to remember that when we come back out of this menu, right, that we make sure we set the can move back to true. Right. And it didn't want to duplicate again. Why do you not want to duplicate? Right. We can do that. Move that to there. Now we are going to have to change these controls. Now I don't know if I'm going to do it on stream, but these controls are going to have to get duplicated against, at the moment we're only using the left or right with a minus or plus scale on it, but that's actually going to change slightly, not much. And we're going to move this down a bit. Then we're going to move this down a bit. I think I'll probably do the movement stuff off screen because it's not going to be really exciting, I can tell you that. Right, we've got the turn and the look up, even though we're not using the look up, but we've left that in there because we might end up actually doing something with it. And the other thing is going to be that this number here might be actually amended, because basically if the input is too sensitive, we're going to need to do like a calculation to dampen it down, like maybe divide it by 2 or something. Right, so that is us. We don't need to do anything with the jump. Except just probably tidy it up a bit. We might use it for something else later, but that should be us. Right, so if I press play now, right, we should still have our buttons all working, but when we hit 1, you'll notice that nothing works. Nothing else works, right? I'm trying to move, but nothing is actually working. Okay? So we can stop that for now. And that is basically good. And the next thing we need to do is copy some code from the main menu. Right? So this was fine. We can copy that and we can actually put this in here. And what's that doing? Hover over button. Right, so we basically have two functions, and we're not going to be doing that. So what we can do is copy that, go back to your pause, and we can add to functions. That's going to be hover over button. Okay, and then we paste. Then we need our input, and we'll call that text, and this is just purely a text. This here. Okay. And the next thing we do is we duplicate this. And we say unhover over button, and we set our opacity to 0.6. Okay, and we can go back to here, refresh, back to here and refresh, and now basically I should be able to press play. We should be able to go over 1. And that doesn't seem to be working. Button new. That is definitely button new. Right. We can change this now to button continue. And that's going to change all our code for us. And we want this border now to be basically 1. And we should be able to see better now if we are hovering or unhovering. There we go. Other ones are, obviously. So, the next thing we need to do is go to button options and hovered, button options, unhovered. Then we basically do the same thing here. Right, we drag these down. Then we delete that, plug these in, and drag this in, and that for some reason we can drag these in. We can save that. Right, and that's our first one. So we've got button continue, and we need to change this to text continue. Right, so that these match up with what they actually do. Except try and spell it right. Okay. And this is going to be text. Main menu, and that's going to be button main menu, and we may as well change this button exit game. And that's going to be text exit game, and that just keeps it all right. Save that, go back to our graph, and we're going to go button exit game, hover, button exit game, unhover. Then as before, we duplicate these, drag them into position, hook them up, then we delete these ones, and we get text exit game, and text exit game. We plug these in. We could use one and just plug it in there and there, but hey ho. Just depends on your particular style and your preference. Right, and just to finish this off without doing anything with the save and this one, what we can do is we can just go to here and basically set it to hidden. And similarly, set that to hidden. Now, did I actually do it? I'm guessing it did. It just still shows you in the editor. And there we go. Right, now the thing is here, when we bring up this pause menu, I'm going to do on event construct right, and it's going to be UI I'm going to say self I'm going to say get player controller and you see if this works first, right? Yep, that works, right? So that's all good. And our next port of call is going to be these buttons, right? So button continue on clicked. Right, we'll do these at the side so that that's there. So we're going to say get pawn get player pawn, right, and we're going to have to cast it. Right, so we're casting it to Pawn Chronicles. Right. And basically can move. We're going to set can move to true. Then we're going to do global set global time dilation to 1 back to its original. and then we're going to say remove from parent, and it's going to be self. Okay, that's the first part of that done. If you're enjoying the content, guys, hit like and subscribe. I am very close to 500. In fact, I shall tell you right now how close I am to 500. Let's have a look. I am 6 short of 500 subscribers, so it would be fantastic if I could get to 500 tonight. So that is the first one, and now we've got the button main menu. Right, that if we click on that, now we can think about this later, that if we want like a, you know, are you sure or whatever, right? But that's going to be open level by name. That's going to be main menu. And I'm wondering if the global time dilation changes, because we still might have to do this part. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to do that. Just in case. And actually, we shall do that as well. And then finally, our exit game. This is going to be easy. Bye bye for now, Marcus. Nice to see you again. And that is just going to be quit game. Save that. And that should be us, basically. Should be able to test this out. Hit 1. Continue. Right, and obviously that ain't working. We've set it to can move. And what we need to do here is set UI. It's going to be gaming UI now. Now, did we do anything weird about this? I'm just going to say get player controller and then basically set show mouser is false. We'll try that. And we'll see how that goes for us. Right, so we go 1. Then we say continue. Now that is weird, I'm having to hold the button in now. So I'm guessing this is not what you do. Alright, so I'm going to go for this one. Right, so if we hit that, then we're back. Cool. That's working well. Okay, so in theory, okay, that's still all working nicely. We just ran into some spikes there. If we hit 1, main menu, that's all good. Yep. So we have all that working now. But now, when we load up this level, we are not able to move or anything. Right, so there's something going on with our player controller here. Musty bees. I may add head bobbing, and I may not. It depends how I feel like it. Now, I did mention it earlier, but yeah, we can add head bobbing if we like. Right, now, what I'm wondering about is if this actually works correctly if I load up the correct map. Okay, because we're starting off from a weird position. So I want to see what's going on when we actually load the correct, start it from the right place. Right. Now we do, right. This is now fairly obvious what we need to do. Right, what we need to do is basically, when this is created, we set it to game only on begin play. right? On begin play. So once it's done all this stuff, set game. Can you Musty Bees, can you tell me why you're so interested in head bobbing? I am intrigued why you're so right. So there we go. Now, the interesting thing there was actually the slight delay, which would actually suggest that I should do it earlier here. Right, so what we'll do is we'll stick it in here. There we go. Save that. If I do add head bobbing, Musty Bees, it's going to be an option in the gameplay where you can switch it on or switch it off. Because I know some people don't like it, some people do like it. So it's going to be a gameplay option. Right, so that's better. That's good. We shall escape that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to hit 1. But it's fine. We'll hit 1. And we can continue. That's perfect. Hit 1 again. Takes us back to main menu. That's good. So that is looking absolutely super. And I think we're going to leave it there for the moment. So, if you've enjoyed the stream, you've enjoyed the content, hit like and subscribe. We are only 6 subscribers short of 500. So it'd be appreciated if you hit that subscribe button. And also, if you want to support the channel, you will find in the description my Patreon links and also my previous game. And you can also join the Discord if that is your desire. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 PM Central. And bye bye for now.